Hello everyone, I'm Colette and I'm here today to talk to you about simple magic that you can do for Samhain. I hope you enjoy this season and this video. Samhain is the time of year when the veils between the worlds are much thinner, and that gives us much deeper access to spirits, ancestors, and the deep mystery that is present at this season. So here are some of the things that I do at Samhain. I do a lot of banishing and releasing. So this is the start of the dark time of year. So one thing you can try is to think about what you don't want to carry into the winter with you, and then write it out in a journal. Take that journal page out and burn it to release the things you don't wish to carry. You can also bury that journal page in the ground with a handful of autumn leaves, asking the earth to take that energy, compost it into wisdom. You could also sit with any of the gods of the underworld or the crossroads and just ask them to take your burden from you and to release it and let it die. And with all these things, I tend to light a candle at the start and let it burn all the way out to activate the spell. Some people call Samhain the witch's new year, and it's a great time to do a reading. You could, for example, pull one card for every month of the coming year. You could also just pull one card for each of the 6 months of the dark half of the year if that felt better to you. It's also a great time to scry in bowls, wells, or mirrors, and I'll link a couple videos about that I have in the description. Folk magic lets us know that people in Western Europe and Northern Europe did a lot of divination at this time of year with apples and hazelnuts, particularly around potential partners. You can put a piece of mugwort under your pillow to enhance your dreams, or you can cast a circle or do some other method of creating sacred magical space for yourself and ask those ancestors that remember how to do the magic of the old ways to give you or send you a dream that you need to listen to at this particular moment. Another piece of magic that I personally really enjoy doing is writing letters to my ancestors. And if you have ancestors you're on good terms with, you can write them a letter of love or appreciation or ask for help. If you're not on good terms with them, or they harmed you, or you feel wronged by them in some way, you perhaps might want to write a letter expressing how their actions impacted you. A really great simple thing to do as part of a group ritual. You might want to make a list of those beloved dead who you have lost since last Samhain, or you might also want to include those who have died this past year who are often overlooked, like murdered Indigenous people, or perhaps those nameless people who were victims of all the wars in the world. And once you've created your list, you can make sacred space, light a candle, read the names out loud, make an offering, and then let the candle burn all the way out. This is also another really easy ritual to do with a group ritual. You can make a simple or an elaborate ancestor altar at this time of year, whatever you have the time, the means, and the supplies for, and whatever feels authentic and realistic in your life. It can really just be as simple as an ancestor picture or two, a candle, and a plate for offerings, or even a glass that you pour water into for offerings. If you don't have ancestor pictures, you can write down names and put those on the altar. If you don't have exact names, you can just write down the surnames that you do know. And yes, adopted family names count. If you don't want to work with your personal ancestors or their names, or don't have access to any names, you can always use broad categories like my ancestors who were witches, or my ancestors who lived in a time when magic was real or valued, Or maybe you would want to commemorate those who lived through difficult times, who lived through times of war or slavery. Or you might want to call on the ancestors that were healers of your bloodline. As many of you know, I often give a daily glass of water or chalice of water to my ancestors, and that's something that if you don't regularly do that practice, you could incorporate that into the Samhain season. You could also give a more elaborate offering like alcohol, food, flowers, anything that feels right to you. And before we go on to a few more pieces of magic that you can do at Samhain, I just wanted to talk a little bit about when you can do this magic. When is the Samhain season? So you can celebrate Samhain season or do magic relating to it anytime between mid-October and mid to late November. Or you can do it on a specific day, like the 3 days that follow the calendar date of Samhain, which is October 31st. Or you could do something special on the actual halfway point between fall equinox and winter solstice. And that usually falls around November 5th through 7th. You could also do magic on any waning moon during this whole Samhain season from mid-October to about the end of November. And in Nordic and Celtic countries, it was really common for people to have these kinds of big celebrations with bonfires, etc., and feasting right around the full moon of November. For most of my European ancestors, this was the time of year that they considered to be the entryway into the dark, deep part of year and into winter. And so for me, that means it's a good time to do a little protection magic. So anything you do for protection is great. I like to offer one particular thing that I find very simple and effective, and that is to take branches of any tree that you have a mutual beneficial relationship with. Oak, ash, rowan, or elder are strongly protective trees. If you happen to have sticks of those or a relationship with those trees, tie them into a cross with red thread and then hang either bundles of protective herbs or put some protective herbs in a charm sack and hang it from the center of the cross, and then put it somewhere in your house like a doorway. I like using herbs like rosemary, blue vervain, or agrimony because I find those to be very reliable at protection, but there's many others that you can use. And if you have more experience with witchy skills and you already put up wards or protective filters of some kind, this is a really good time of year to renew those, to go around and strengthen them and make sure they're still secure. You might want to actually redo them. Some people prefer to do that at winter solstice. However, you can also just renew them by breathing into them, giving them a little boost of energy with your hands and your intention. You can also put protective oil on your hands and just rub it on the charm bags that are hanging, or take that oil and retrace it over any symbols or sigils that you have up on your walls that you use as protection. You can put protective spray that I've talked about in other videos up on those pre-existing charms and wards. And maybe you all want to do that as part of a group ritual in each other's homes as part of a Samhain sort of roving feast, and then have food together after with the ancestors. And at this witchy time of year, I just want to say thank you for following me and helping my channel grow. If you feel inclined, please hit the like, the subscribe, and the notification bell. I'd also really love to hear when you all celebrate Samhain. Do you just wait for a weekend after the calendar Halloween? Do you do it with the moon phases? When do you celebrate? I'd love to hear, and I think it would be great for everyone else to hear as well. And I'd love it if you would check out my Patreon page. I'm running promos this fall. I'll put a link in the description. So until I see you next time, stay safe and be well, witches.